good morning or good afternoon, because I don't know where you are located, but yes, welcome to this session on insight into research. I'm very pleased to be here with you and to be able to share also my research with you today. Thank you for Business Science Institute for their invitation, and also to Frédéric for the logistical setup of this session. I'm going to share my screen, so you should be able to see it. Okay. I hope you can see the screen, the PowerPoint. Yes, okay, great. So before starting with the presentation of this research paper, so it's an article that was published recently in the academic journal Information and Management with two other colleagues, Elodie Manté and Rémi Mancarelli. So before jumping to the article, I would like to introduce myself a little bit, and then I will present to you this research. So my name is Jessie Pallud. I am a full professor in Management of Information Systems at the University of Strasbourg. I've been working in academia for now 20 years, actually. So I started with the PhD in 2005 at Paris-Dauphine University and also Georgia State University, because that was a dual degree, a dual PhD. So I did half of the PhD in Paris and half of it in Atlanta. And then when I came back and when I got the degree of the PhD, I started as assistant professor at the University of Strasbourg, and more specifically at the business school, because it's a large university. And then I became associate professor and then full professor. So my research interest lies in the topic of information systems adoption, how technologies changes also work practices. I've been also working on the different issues related to also the impacts of the technologies, negative impacts, with topics such as the quantification of selves with a smartwatch and other types of technologies, also collaborative technologies. I still publish on the topic also of technologies for museums, because my PhD was addressing also this topic of user experience with museum technologies. So I have different research topics, and here that's my business school in Strasbourg where I work. So today I will focus on this paper, especially because it's a systematic literature review, and I wanted to use this article also as an illustration, because I know that in most of the PhD you have to do the literature review, you have to identify the research gap, and so I guess I will illustrate how we did it, and also we manage also to publish it. So that's also an encouragement for you. If it's a strong literature review, you can also consider submitting it to an academic journal. So I will start this presentation with the research context of why this topic of crowdsourcing, then the research gap and research questions and research objectives, the literature review, our methodology to conduct this systematic literature review, the main results, and then some elements of discussion to conclude. So crowdsourcing has been defined as a way to outsource part of labor to a crowd of individuals, and generally it's done through a digital platform. So there is a website where people can go find the challenges or the calls for participation, and then they can also submit their IDs online with a digital platform. There are three main actors: crowdsourcers, which are generally the organizations that solicit the input from the crowd, the contributors, the individuals who participate, and the last actor is the crowdsourcing platform. It can be a platform that belongs to the company, the brand that organizes the challenges, but there are also specific platforms dedicated to crowdsourcing that receive challenges from different brands or different companies. There are different types also of crowdsourcing. The literature addresses the micro-tasking, versus the macro-tasking types of crowdsourcing. We talk about micro-tasking when it's simple, fragmented tasks that generally require non-expert skills. So everybody could potentially participate. And you have very simple tasks such as tagging images. You have also the reCAPTCHA when you want to log to a website and they want to check if you are a robot or not. And they will ask you a question like, could you type the numbers that you see or the letters that you see here just to check that you are human? This is a kind of micro-tasking because this job then serves also for the identification of text, for instance. Amazon Mechanical Turk is also a platform which is known for providing different micro-tasking tasks to the community, to the online community. Generally, it leads to micro-payment as well. The macro-tasking task generally refer to more complex work. It can require expert knowledge to be able to answer the call. And it can be advertising, creating advertising campaign or creating a new logo for a brand, imagining new ideas for a company or designing new products and so forth. Generally, this type of crowdsourcing is also the one that creates the most value for companies. And that's this. We are going to focus on this type of crowdsourcing. I provide here some examples just to illustrate. You have a well-known actor, which is Lego. They have their Lego website, which is called Lego Ideas, where people can submit new ideas. So generally people who are fans of Lego, who have a lot of Lego boxes, can create and submit ideas of new configurations, or they can also submit ideas for Legos to create new boxes with new topics, for instance, new thema. Lego is also providing challenges regularly for its community. And I provided also the example of the Fiat Mio, so the auto car, the car maker Fiat created this challenge in 2010, and the idea was to think about the car of the future. So millions of people participated and provided ideas, and you have here the results of this concept car, which is supposed to be the car of the future, especially to drive in city, not consuming too much energy as well, and so forth. So the sustainability issues were also at the heart of the design of this car. Oreo also has provided in the past different challenges for the creation of new recipe. The Oreo cakes, biscuit, if you are familiar with it. Yes, so that's also a way for people to think about new flavor and potentially also to earn money. I forgot to say it, but that's also the idea of the crowdsourcing challenges. They can lead to some awards, some prize, and sometimes some money. I provide here another example of a platform, Kaggle, which is a platform, a crowdsourcing platform. So it provides challenges from different organizations, actually. And some of them are really research-oriented and require a lot of scientific or expertise, scientific knowledge or expertise to be able to answer to those challenges. That's why we talk about macro-tasking or crowdsourcing of complex tasks. So what is the research gap? There's a lot of research on crowdsourcing. We are not the first one to study this topic, of course. Actually, when we reviewed the literature, we found that most of the studies published on this topic have focused on the benefits of crowdsourcing. Very often, crowdsourcing is presenting as a value-added process, a way to generate more ideas, to improve innovation, to create more value for the company. As you can see here also with the definition from Esteles Arolas et al., they say that generally crowdsourcing always entails mutual benefits, both for the company and for the contributors. We went a step further to look at the theories that have been used in relation to crowdsourcing. And most of them, as you can see here, I provided the name of some of those theories here. Most of them also contribute to the bright side perspective. The bright side because we consider that crowdsourcing leads to benefits. So as I said, it can lead to higher value. It can also be a way to generate more creativity, to foster more creativity. It's also another way to make people collaborate together, to create something bigger. When prior research has also looked at the motivation behind crowdsourcing, most of the motivations that are reported are quite good motivations. Also, I want to help a company. I'm a big fan of this company. If we take the example of Lego, generally people who participate, they do it for fun because they like the brand and so forth. And also the crowd wisdom or collective intelligence. So these are some of the theories that have been used to study crowdsourcing. So our question was, but is it always beneficial? Is it always rewarding? Could there be also negative consequences of the crowdsourcing? So that was I would say the origin of our research, to look at the main negative outcomes of crowdsourcing of complex tasks, with the idea to identify all the unintended, unwanted, or adverse consequences. If there are negative outcomes or negative consequences, how are they generated and experienced by the actors, the crowdsourcers, the contributors, or even the platforms? And what could be some mitigation mechanism that can help to prevent or even to limit negative outcomes? So these are the three research questions on which we rely to conduct this systematic literature review. Here you have the definition of the dark side, because that's the title, that's the word we use in our title, the dark side of crowdsourcing of complex tasks. There's a research stream, especially in management of information systems, on the dark side of technology. There was a special issue published in the Information System Journal in 2015, and in the editorial, Tarafdar and his colleagues provide this definition of the dark side. So it's a broad collection of negative phenomena that are associated with the use of IT and that have the potential to infringe the well-being of individuals, organizations, and societies. So that was our starting point, looking at this definition, this editorial, and other papers. And we then created this conceptual framework that we then reused to analyze the articles. We decided that we would look for each paper that we would download on crowdsourcing and on the dark side of the crowdsourcing, that we would look for the manifestation of the dark side, that we would try to characterize also the dark side, looking at the context of occurrence, the negative outcomes, the mitigation mechanism, the level of analysis. And the third step was also to review potential theories that could explain the manifestation of the dark side. To identify the manifestation of the dark side, we read a paper from Oliveira and Lumino. They looked at the dark side of inter-organizational inter-organizational institutions and inter-organizational collaboration. And we reused some of their ideas I'm going to show you here the different steps to look at what could be the manifestation of the dark side. In their paper, so they don't focus on the IT or IS ecosystem, but what was interesting to us is more the idea that they developed, because it was not easy actually to find theoretical paper on the dark side. So that's why we went and looked into organizational research. What they say is that dark side can be involuntary. So there can be detrimental effects, negative outcomes, but unintended outcomes, which means that people don't think of doing bad, but they do something and ultimately the outcome is negative. Level 2 is when people tend to have ill-intended behaviors or opportunistic behaviors. And there's a third level with this time voluntary actions. People want to harm. It can be a company or other individuals. And here it's where you can find unethical, deviant, or even volitional behaviors. So we try to keep this in mind to assess and to review the manifestation of the dark side in the crowdsourcing domain. And so now that I've presented the first part, I'm going to introduce to you the methodology, our systematic literature review, and our results. So this is the approach that we retained. We had 5 different phases to collect the data. In the first phase, that was a phase of familiarization with the topic of crowdsourcing. So we tried to read some key paper, some of the most cited papers on crowdsourcing to get familiarized with the topic, to get the definition of crowdsourcing, the typologies of crowdsourcing, and so forth. We identified also literature reviews on the topic of crowdsourcing. So that was the first phase. In the second phase, so the inclusion phase, this is when we started to download papers on crowdsourcing, crowdsourcers. So we had different keywords that we use in academic databases. This returned about 451 papers that we downloaded. We then did a third phase of exclusion phase. This is when you remove non-relevant articles. As I said, we wanted to focus on the more complex task of crowdsourcing. So every paper related to the gig economy, to microtasking, that were not really in the scope of our study were removed. And then we still had a sample of 192 papers. And then we did another phase of coding the articles to identify the manifestation of the dark side. And by reading some of those papers, we were not able sometimes to find manifestation of the dark side. We read the paper and overall it was very positive with the bright side dimension. So it was also considered as out of the scope, and we only kept 52 papers. These are the papers that really mention at one point in the article, in the results, some negative outcomes. From these 52 papers, we then used the Taraf-Dar et al. Framework to identify the context of occurrence, the type of factors, and so forth. So that's what I'm going to present to you, the results. First results that I can already share is that there is a dark side for each type of categories of factors. So contributors, crowdsourcers, and crowdsourcing platform, the 3 actors are really concerned or impacted by the dark side. They are impacted as victims, but they are also perpetrators. So they can also contribute. In some of the research, they show that these actors can also create or contribute to the dark side and to the negative outcomes. And they have also sometimes inherent characteristics that tend to contribute or to accentuate the dark side. So I will start with the contributor perspective. So the contributors, these are the people who participate. Actually, it could be you and me, because some of the challenges are very open and everybody can also provide a solution depending on the complexity of the challenge and the expertise which is required. So the contributors can be victims of the crowdsourcing. We found some papers that talk about the negative affective reactions that occur, especially after the results are announced. So once the competition, the contest is over, and the company share who has won the prize or the award, very often they can also resent or they can feel frustration or resentment or anger. Some of them also feel they have feelings of being cheated or exploited because they spend time providing ideas, developing, I don't know, a new logo or a marketing campaign, and at the end their idea is not retained. So some of the papers that we read in the 52, so our sample, 52 research papers mention these outcomes, negative outcomes. They can also feel economic and psychological losses, especially when they share their knowledge. They have also this tension between sharing knowledge and also losing intellectual property rights when they share their contribution. And sometimes they can also experience stress and anxiety when the results and the contribution and compensations are given by the crowdsourcers. So they are victims, but they can also be perpetrators of the dark side. Actually, contributors can also reduce their participation or their engagement. Sometimes they also achieve lower individual performance. Not all crowdsourcing contests actually lead to a success. Most of the times there are successes, but there can also be sometimes non-successful challenges. There can be unethical behavior as well. So some research also identify plagiarism as a risk, something that can occur when contributors start to imitate or to copy ideas because they see that, oh, this is a good idea, and people start to vote for this one. Okay, I will get inspiration from this idea, maybe modify it or enrich it. But then actually the initial idea was not theirs. They're really, you can say, steal sometimes some of the participants steal ideas. There can be opportunistic behaviors as well, with, for instance, intention to demoralize other participants and to have less concurrent. So they provide negative feedback on their ideas, and they hope that they will probably stop the competition as well. Some participants, they sometimes intentionally also they propose provocative content or deviant content that is I would say not directly related to the brief. And in our literature review also, I did not provide all the references, but everything is in the research paper, and I will also share it with the PowerPoint, so you will get access to all the resources. But for all the information that I'm sharing with you, we relied on the 52 papers. So there is, of course, academic references that demonstrated the results that I'm sharing. Intrinsic characteristics of the contributors, they have expertise limitations. So they are not expert on all topics. And sometimes based on their limited expertise, they have also limited contributions. They can have cognitive biases also, personality factors. In one of the research, they talk about Machiavellism. Some contributors can have Machiavellism behaviors that can also influence badly the outcomes of the project. Cultural influences also, so Chua et al., for instance, they indicate that countries with tight culture, in countries in which maybe people are not used to have deviant ideas, they may stay in the frame, they will be probably less creative as well, for instance. Crowdsourcer. From the crowdsourcer perspective, we are going also to see that there are victims. They can be perpetrators, and also their inherent characteristics sometimes also contribute to this dark side. In terms of victims, so sometimes they receive fewer ideas or content, as I said, which is not really interesting, or that doesn't really match the needs, sometimes irrelevant submissions. So all of these can create non-successful challenges, and so a poor performance campaign. There can be a reputational harm as well, especially when the contributors sometimes they provide content which is deviant. Sometimes they want to mock, or they want to cause damage to the brand or to the organization. And there can be internal challenges, especially when the employees sometimes feel anxious about the crowdsourcing contest, and they can have this feeling that their job is actually outsourced, which is more or less the case. The idea is to rely on this open innovation and to go outside of the company to get ideas. So that can also be perceived as a negative outcome. Here I provide an example of how providing online challenge can sometimes also provide backfire. The Breads brand, it's a French brand. They produce chips, potato chips in France, and they are known for their sometimes original flavor. They did a challenge last year on X, on the social network X, and they asked to their community, okay, could you help us find a new flavor for our potato chip? And the one that got the most, as you can see, the most votes and likes, so here more than 65,000 likes, was the flavor Gazole. So the gasoline, so of course they are not going to produce that, but it's a way to show you that sometimes asking to the community to participate, it's not always relevant. Sometimes it's you lose time, and that's I mean, that was quite fun probably for the community, maybe less for the brand. The crowdsourcer can also be, as I said, perpetrator of dark side in terms of feedback that they can share. Sometimes the contributors they regret that they receive late feedback, so they were quite advanced in their work when they receive a feedback from the company saying we are not going to choose you. The feedback can also be negative or too much positive. It can be overly positive, and at the end they don't retain the contribution. In some research, they were also able to show that there is sometimes unfair value distribution. So at the end of the contest, the crowdsourcing contest, very often there is a prize. It can be monetary prize, but the contributors say sometimes it's not transparent. We don't understand how they decided to assign this prize. The reward also, sometimes the amount is considered as too low. I don't know, I worked 2 weeks to create this new logo. If they had to pay someone, a professional, that would be the price, but they just gave me $100. That's just an example, but to illustrate. And also when they reject solutions, that also create frustration for the contributors who spent a lot of time sometimes providing their ideas. There can be characteristics also related to the brief, actually, the brief that crowdsourcers produce. So the task, instruction, the information that they give to the crowdsourcers, to the contributors, sorry, the duration of the contest, the reward structure, or the selection process. All these elements that are part of the crowdsourcing process can sometimes be biased and they can create frustrations and negative outcomes as well. The last category of actor, the platform, just the same. It can be a victim. It can be perpetrator, and there are also functionalities of those websites that sometimes also contribute to the dark side. As a victim, so the platform could be Kaggle, for instance. So how can the platform be a victim? It's especially when the internet users, when they misuse the functionalities of the platform. So they use the functionalities for harmful purpose, like bullying other contestants, using a lot of like, or adding more friends to get more like, so or removing people from the network if they start saying things negative. So people can try to play with the functionality of the platform to try to control a little bit the process. So this can this can also threaten the business model of the crowdsourcing platform. The platform can also lead to undesirable effects, especially the algorithms that are not always transparent. So some of these algorithms are judged as unfair, the way the tasks are attributed or shared, the fact that the work, it's always time limited. So it's speculative work in a sense. You work during a certain time, but you don't know if at the end you will also earn the prize or the award. Sometimes the platforms, also crowdsourcing platforms, can delete account and people say, we don't understand, I was participating and my account was suspended or deleted without explanation. Other participants see the crowdsourcing platform as a way also to do surveillance and to collect a lot of ideas. At the end, only one actor has the award or the recognition, but a lot of people participated, and the question is what happens with the data that is shared. Maybe they can reuse it as well for their own activities. And some characteristics of those platforms that can sometimes also contribute to the dark side: poor interface design, some of the functionalities that can be manipulated, and also the fact that most of the time it's limited contract or limited time. So it's not a full-time job, of course, but this creates also instability for the workers. So after this work in which we try to identify the manifestation of the dark side, so we see a lot of things actually emerging from our analysis. We also try to look in those 52 papers if there were, especially in the managerial recommendation, if there were some mitigation mechanism. And this is also what you have here, some ideas that we were able to find in, not in all of the papers, but in some of them. Sometimes the authors provide some suggestions to limit or mitigate the risk, the negative risk. To conclude on this presentation, so this paper presents both theoretical contributions and managerial implications. In terms of theoretical contributions, we contribute to this research stream of the dark side by identifying and putting together all these manifestations. It has not been done before, so this work can really be used as a starting point for future research. And clearly, those different topics deserve further research. So on the negative outcomes of contributors, crowdsourcers, or platforms, the experience that they have, the negative experience that they can have, these are things that could be investigated deeper, probably with interviews as well. We were able to show that the three actors are actually victims and perpetrators, and so they have all an ambivalent role. In terms of managerial implications, so I will not detail all of this, but in the paper, in the journal article, we provide clear strategies on how to mitigate those risks as well. So we have three acronyms: MATCH for the platform, TRUST for the crowdsourcers, and Team Up. And for each of those letters, there is a specific strategy that they could try to implement to limit the emergence of the negative outcomes. So I will stop here because I see that the time is almost over. But thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I will be pleased to answer them.
Thank you, Professor. Is it okay to ask a question?
Yes, it's okay to ask questions.
You referred to some, it's a super nice, very, very interesting research. So thanks a lot for all the information. It was super to hear your explanation. I was wondering, did you also check the managerial implications? For example, the different strategies. You referred to the Team Up, to the TRUST strategy. Do you also have some, I would say, evidence that it works?
So the paper was a conceptual paper, so we have not implemented all of those strategies, but we relied actually on the mitigation mechanism. So we were able to find in some papers, they say, okay, We observed that, so maybe companies should do that. So we relied on some of those advices or managerial recommendation to develop our acronym. But I agree with you that that could be the next step, actually, to try to implement those strategies and see if they work and if they help to alleviate the negative outcomes. Yes. So far we have not tested all those strategies, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe a second question, if that's okay. Is there some evidence that AI has an impact on these negative outcomes? Can AI help? Can it?
So when we did the literature review, it was the article that we took for analysis were published from 2010 and 2022. So our last paper, end of 2022, we were not that much talking about AI, but what we anticipate, and that's a very good question, thank you. What we anticipate is that AI is going to play a big role now in the contributions. Probably contributors, when they will look for challenges online and then go on different AI and do the prompt and say, okay, I have to find ideas, or I want to win this contest. Could you help me, provide me with solutions? So we know that AI is very good to do brainstorming. I'm not saying that AI will do everything, but it can be probably used in the contest, in crowdsourcing contest. So I think for future research, that may be something very interesting to study. Do people rely on AI? Do they mention it? Because maybe they will also develop covert strategies, not mentioning anything. And does it improve the quality of the contributions? Maybe yes, maybe no. So that these are some of the questions I think that will be very interesting to study in the future.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to ask a question. It was very interesting. It is quite a new topic for me, and I also didn't know what to expect exactly today from the topic of your research. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit there and experience it. When I look at your examples at the beginning of your presentation, it's generally private sector oriented. Do you also see public sector initiatives on crowdsourcing?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that I'm sure that there are some, because I've seen online contests provided by research laboratories. I mean, research laboratories can be the participant, so the contributors, but they can also be the crowdsourcer. So you can find that's a good question. I know that there is this platform called Innocentive that provides more scientific challenges, and I would not be surprised to see also public agencies maybe looking for international expertise, also providing challenges online. Yes.
To give you context, I work at the tax administration in Curacao, and I was really thinking about how we can, for example, engage with the general public to improve our services or anything else. So
Yeah.
it was like inspiring to see the presentation, and then I thought, well, I only see like the private companies embarking on this path. Yeah.
Actually, it would be also feasible in the public sector, asking citizens also their point of view. I'm thinking of Strasbourg, where I live. They want to develop the tramway, and they ask us our opinion and ideas, and so it's a kind of crowdsourcing.
It's a form of crowdsourcing. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
And if you are interested also by this topic, there is this book from Henri Chesbrough on open innovation, and he is one of the key authors who has initially started this research stream on trying to find ways for companies to innovate with people outside of the organization. So this idea of open innovation and collaborating with it can be startups, it can be students, it can be internet users. I mean, trying to find ideas outside of the company. It's a good way to be very creative.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't know if there are any other questions, but yes, I think that's quite a good starting point when you do this type of literature review. It's a good way to map your research field and then to justify your research gap, to say, okay, that's my research topic, and I was able to demonstrate to you that there's not much research on this. Very often we say it, but we say it probably too quickly. But when you do this type of systematic literature review, it's a good way to demonstrate can be to journal reviewers, but it can also be to your PhD committee that you have really reviewed your research field. And
yeah, I don't have any further questions. Yeah.
yes, if there are, thank you very much for your participation. And if there are no other questions, it's also fine. And so you have my email if you want to ask me a question, or if there is something coming up later, then don't hesitate.
I think I may have a question here.
Yes.
But first of all, thank you, Professor, for the presentation. It's not really my area of expertise, so just like the other colleagues, I was asking myself, okay, what am I going to discover? But I think I learned a little bit from the presentation. I have a question, and I'm not too sure whether it falls within the parameters of this presentation, but of course, you tell me because you are the expert. So through the reading of the articles, were there anything that probably pointed toward concerns related to privacy or confidentiality as information is received through crowdsourcing?
Clearly, that was part of this economic loss when the participants said, okay, I have to, in terms of intellectual property rights, I'm sharing a lot of information with the company, and now they are going to reuse my creation. So that was actually one of the concerns. Yes, you're right, that emerged from the data. And I know that there is lawyers specialized also in these competitions who can sometimes provide help for the contributors when they think that maybe that the company reuse their idea without their consent, for instance. Very often there is a contract. I mean, they try to put everything in a written document to say, if you participate, you accept this, you consent to this, and so forth. But sometimes, yes, the frontiers can be more blurry, and it can lead to some confidentiality issues.
Okay, makes sense here. Thank you, Professor. And that was a great presentation. I think I learned a lot from this. I'm actually thinking about how I may be able to use that in some of our projects at work. I work in banking, and that may be something we could use for some projects. So, yeah.
Okay. Yes. The topic is probably a niche topic. It may not be directly related to your PhD thesis, but a DBA thesis. Sorry, but I think that maybe the methodology can inspire you to try also to have something which is more systematic, where you can show to your professor, I had 100 results, or I had 1,000, and from 1,000 I went to 500, and from 500 I went to 60, I don't know. And this is why in my DBA thesis I'm presenting 60 articles. These are the most relevant. So yes, the methodology can be reused maybe.
Awesome. Thank you, Professor Jessie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Frédéric left the session, but he said that when we are over, we just have to leave the session. So if there is no further question, we can close the Zoom session.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being online.
Yes.
Yes. It's a pleasure.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.